Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Marion County Espresso TV. I'm your host, Steve Woodhouse. Joining me today is Marika Michmershuizen and Carol Van Klompenberg. We're here talking about these books that were written right here in Pella. So why don't we start with you, Marika, and tell me about your book.
My book is just about my life because my life is pretty unique and special and different. And so I thought I'd write it down because I was hoping, I don't know, it could bless someone or help someone get through a rough time because I've had many rough times that I've survived.
And so, how old are you?
21.
And so, what are some of these rough times? Can you give us kind of like an idea?
Well, I had, I think, 1 to 2 strokes. I can't remember how many strokes I had. I've had a brain hemorrhage. I've had a couple of brain surgeries. Like, every time I get sick, I almost die.
That's qualified.
Do you remember how many brain surgeries you've
I
had?
think it was like 12 or 16.
It's even more than 16, it's 18.
Yeah, I knew it was in the teens, but I was like, I don't know.
Right.
And so, have you heard from anybody that's read the book? Have they been inspired by your tales?
I've read from a couple people, or I've heard from a couple people that read it, and everyone that read it says they love it. And I heard from my aunt just today, and she said she read it and she showed it to a couple people, and they said it was really good and that they thought I was really inspirational.
So how long did it take you to write that?
Oh, about a year, right?
We started in February of 2023, and it came out in December of 2024, so right, a year plus.
Yeah.
And so how did you select which tales to share in the book?
I don't know. I just pretty much wrote down everything I remembered, and 1 year I didn't remember, but my parents remembered.
Was this the first time you wrote a book? Or?
Yes.
And so, what was that like for you, deciding to share these stories and writing your own story?
Well, I love writing, so that was fun. And I don't know. I want to be an inspirational speaker, so that's the start of that.
And Marika, how long have you wanted to write a book in your life?
Since I was a little kid, because if I was a little kid, I was like, I want to write a book about my life. But it took me till now to do it.
Do you think waiting kind of helped? You know, you have additional maturity and so forth.
Yeah.
And so you wanted to write a book at a young age. So you've always had a passion for writing.
Yeah.
What inspired that?
I don't know. I've just always, I think, liked to write.
And your teachers have encouraged you too along the way. They
Yeah.
would say, you're a good writer, Marika, you're a good writer. And I found that in working with you too, that your sense of words and what sentences work and what words work in what sentences is very good. And I appreciated that as we worked together.
And when you used a word twice in a sentence, and I know you don't like that.
Mm-hmm. You know not to use a word twice in the same word twice in the same sentence, right?
So how much advice did you give her, Carol?
Well, it was really a collaborative effort. When we started working together, we just did some writing exercises first. And we talked about how the specific word is more powerful than an abstract or a vague word. We talked about making things concrete. We talked about not making sentences run on too long. And then after we'd done some work on that sort of thing, I said to Marika, well, I wasn't sure where to go. And I said, what would you like to work on next? And she said,
I want to write a book about my life.
and so her parents weren't sure she could. I wasn't sure she could. But you know who was sure she could? Marika was sure she could. And so we started at the beginning of your life, right? And a lot of that Marika had to ask her parents about because
Yeah.
she doesn't remember her birth and all that sort of thing. So she would talk with her parents, and then on Saturdays we would get together and create the words, and we just went section by section by section.
Yeah.
And so where do you start then? At the very beginning, or?
Yeah, like when I was born, like, yeah. Like, literally, it starts out when I was born. I think.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what's the title of the book? I don't think I've asked that yet.
The title is There is Blessing in the Battle. And then, what's that called again?
What's what called? The subtitle?
Yeah, that. The subtitle is The Best Is Yet to Come.
And I think it's a really good story of how you chose the title. I like to hear that story.
Well, that story's in the book, but I chose the title because I heard it in a song we sang at church once, and I liked it, and I thought it applied good to my life. And the subtitle, I've just always, when I'm in a bad situation, try and focus on, like, I'll get through it, it'll be fine, I'll be okay. So I was like, the best is yet to come, that sounds good.
The powers of prayer and positive thinking,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's the very best that's yet to come?
Evan?
And so I heard that you're living at the Faith Formation House. Is that the
Forward to faith.
Forward with Faith? Yeah.
Yeah.
So can you tell me about what that's like? You talk about that in there as well?
I don't think I do very much.
Just at the end.
Yeah.
Just at the end.
But I don't know, it's kind of like living on my own, but then my parents live like 5 blocks away. So it's kind of like a nice mix between living on my own, but still having them there if I need them.
And who made the decision for you to move to Forward with Faith? Who thought that would be a good idea first?
I did.
And what did your parents think of it at first?
They didn't want me to move out.
But
I didn't give up because I tend not to give up.
that's right. That's right.
So why don't you? Well, that's not going to sound right. Asking why don't you give up? But what keeps you going? I'll phrase it better that way.
I don't know. I just think if I give up, there's no way I'm gonna get what I want. And I don't know. God gave me the spirit to not give up
Mm-hmm.
through all of this stuff. So I've just learned to not give up.
And your parents were against you moving out, but have they accepted it? How long has it been since you moved in?
About 1.5 years, I think.
And things are going pretty well, I take it, with you?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, what's next? Do you plan to write another book, or maybe something like some creative writing, or a sequel to the next chapters of your life?
I don't know. Carol asked me that, and if I was gonna write another book, I might do a sequel, but I also kind of just want to write a children's book just about, I don't know, surviving stuff maybe. Just because I feel like I could help a lot of kids.
I think that would be fantastic. So tell us, where can we find your book if we want to buy one?
Well, you can get it on Amazon, but I get more money if you buy it from me or my dad. So you can get it from my dad's office, which is Promotions by Design. It's like right across from the cupcake shop.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can buy it from me at my house. I live right across from Rotary Park on Columbus Street.
Excellent. So you're here tonight to give a presentation at the Pella Public Library.
Yeah.
Monty's going to tape that and play that as well. So what can we look forward to hearing, in your presentation?
I don't know, just stuff like about my book and about my life, and I don't know, just it's mostly what we wrote in the book and how we decided to write the book, and yeah.
Excellent. So what more would you like to share about this whole experience for you?
Just that it's been a dream of mine since like as long as I can remember, and I did it, yay.
Exactly. Do you have anything more you want to add, Carol?
No, I don't think so. I think Marika has told the story very well.
All right. Be sure to look out for Marika's book. You want to hold it up there? The Blessing is in the Battle. Look for it at Promotions by Design, and from Marika, the author herself. Will you autograph copies for people?
Yeah, I'll autograph copies.
Absolutely. Pick up an autographed copy. Well, thank you all for joining in,
Thank you.
and thank you all for joining us.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. It's my pleasure to welcome you all to the Pella Public Library. I'm Carol Wyhe. I work here as a library assistant and do some of the programming. So we're very excited about tonight to welcome the two authors, Carol Van Kloppenburg and Marika. Wait, she told me Michmershuizen. Okay. Yeah. One you practice. So they are, it's funny how some of the programs come about because I don't know if any of you know, we have, well, I do know some of you know, we have a very popular Jerry Fit class twice a week where older adults can come and exercise. And one of them first mentioned the idea of this program to me. And then Joe contacted and it all just happened. So it was very, very fun. They are going to talk about the book called There is Blessing in the Battle, The Best Is Yet to Come, written by Marika along with Carol and along with your parents, Lisa and Joe. She gave you credit too. Joe also mentioned that what library lovers his kids are, including Marika, that she's been coming here and interacting with Miss Katie from a very early age and is excited to be able to present at the library. So I'm going to get you started in a second. Just quick bit of business. I'm going to pass this around. This is asking you to let us know where you heard about the program. We're just trying to get an idea of where our advertising goes, how does the word get out. So if you put just like tally marks, by any or all of the ones that apply to how you heard about the program, that'll just go around during the program. So without further ado, I will welcome our speakers.
Okay.
Thank you.
Take it away, Marika.
Okay. Hello, we are so glad to see all of you here. We thank you for coming.
A few weeks ago, Marika and I sat down to choose what to read tonight. And the conversation went something like this. Let's pick some of your favorite parts of the book, Marika.
I like all of it.
I like all of it too, but we are going to need to choose. Reading all 25,000 words would take 4 hours. I was pretty sure you wouldn't last that long. So I asked Marika, what parts do you really like though?
Well, I really liked the 2 essays my sisters wrote.
I do too. However, I think people will be there first of all to hear your story. Perhaps we should look at that first.
I really like what Mr. DeYoung wrote and how he helped me and lots of other students with disabilities.
I do too. Maybe we can include a little of that.
And I like the part where my dad wanted an email from God.
I do too. At that point, I opened the book and we paged through it together, eventually selecting about 40 minutes instead of 4 hours from Marika's book.
We worked out a compromise we both liked.
We both agreed that we should tell you, first of all, where the title comes from.
One day, while we were sitting in church, we sang the song Rejoice.
The words are, all our sickness, all our sorrows, Jesus carried up the hill. He has walked the path before us. He is walking with us still, turning tragedy to triumph, turning agony to praise. There is blessing in the battle.
When I heard those words, there is blessing in battle, I thought, that's my life, that's my title. There is blessing in the battle describes my belief and my life. I may view my life differently than most people would, but I think I have been very blessed in my life. Even with all of the challenges I've endured, I am still able to find joy in my life. My story is not only one of struggle, but also of faith, love, and joy.
The line right after there is blessing in the battle in the song is, so take heart and stand amazed. If blessing in the battle is Marika's theme, take heart and stand amazed has been mine as we've worked together.
So tonight we present Sing Blessings in the Battle.
Take heart and stand amazed.
Unless you want to be here for 4 hours, I guess we have to leave some parts out. You'll just have to read those on your own. During the first 3 years of my life, I had the normal childhood illnesses, but I had them much worse than other kids. My medical journey got worse when I was 4. I got sick after a family trip to Arizona. I was hospitalized in Pella and then Des Moines. In Des Moines, I had several strokes. Des Moines specialists were mystified and transferred me to Iowa City. There, an infectious disease specialist took over. My mother gave her a 2-inch binder stuffed with all my medical records. She read it right there in the ER that night. I arrived.
Within a few hours, she had figured out what was wrong with Marika. Marika had Job's syndrome. It's a rare immune disorder. A person with Job's syndrome does not resist infections well. They often have eczema, respiratory infections, and brittle bones.
That diagnosis was the first hurdle. The next one was to determine what caused my meningitis. My infectious disease doctors eventually discovered I had fungal meningitis. My neurologist then learned the swelling in my brain had interrupted the natural outflow of spinal fluid. That fluid created a lot of pressure in my head that caused my strokes.
An acrylic shunt was placed in Marika's brain to drain the spinal fluid. The shunt was a last resort because shunts often become infected and stop draining. Her shunt would require monitoring for the rest of her life.
After several weeks, there was finally an answer regarding the fungus samples. I had coccidiomycosis, or cocci for short.
Just a quick note here. I made sure Marika had that part to read because I could never get it pronounced right. Cocci, that one I can say. Cocci is a fungus that grows underground and sometimes becomes airborne. It's also known as valley fever, and it's found in Arizona, where the Michmershuizens had traveled a few months before.
She can say Michmershuizen, but she can't say coccidiomycosis. If you're a healthy person, it's possible you would never even notice you have it or think you might have a cold. If you have a compromised immune system, like me, it's often deadly. In the weeks after my strokes, I couldn't talk, I couldn't walk. I could raise my arms and point at things. But I didn't have any dexterity or strength. My parents especially remember one incident. My dad described it this way.
One day, Lisa and I were discussing getting some bakery treats for the hospital staff. When I mentioned Dutch letters, we suddenly noticed Marika, who had been lying quietly on her bed, was trying to get our attention. We knew she wanted something. She pointed to herself. We asked, "Do you want some Dutch letters?" She nodded enthusiastically. From that day on, when I came to visit, I brought along Dutch letters for her.
I really like those Dutch letters. They reminded me of home. After months of being in Iowa City, I was transferred to Des Moines for rehab. While I was there, my mom posted a list on Carrion Bridge about our least favorite things at a hospital. She wrote this.
The top 10 things I will not miss about being in the hospital. 10, beeping things. 9, cafeteria food 3 times a day, every day. 8, sleeping on a rock-hard pull-out couch. 7, unscheduled medical tests. 6, forgetting stuff at home that I need at the hospital. 5, forgetting stuff at the hospital that I need at home. 4, being awakened during the night to hear Marika is fine and sleeping well. 3, never having any privacy. 2, having total strangers see me in my pajamas with bedhead. And 1, not seeing my family and friends. Now, she also wrote a list about Marika's top 10 things and said it would probably read like this. 10, pokes. 9, blood pressure checks. 8, getting pictures taken of her head. 7, pokes. 9, not seeing daddy. 6, not seeing daddy. 5, not seeing Metcha. 4, pokes. 3, missing her toys. 2, not getting to make a snowman. And 1, pokes.
My mom's guesses about my list were right, especially about the pokes. My veins are hard to find, and I hated those needles. When I was in the hospital, my teacher made a CD of my classmates singing our classroom songs. She sent it to my mom. I listened to it every day and laughed at the sound of my friends' voices. It was a great way to pass the long, boring hours in my hospital room. It made my mom's heart happy to hear me laugh. During all that time I couldn't speak, all she had wanted was to hear my voice. When I was finally ready to be dismissed, my mom wrote this on Caring Bridge.
As we get ready to go home, many people have asked how long it has been. Since Marika went into the hospital, it has been 3.5 months, 14 weeks, 101 days, a fourth of a year, and 4 holidays. I have gone through 2 large bottles of hand soap, 2 bottles of hand lotion, 5 travel tubes of toothpaste, and 1 industrial-sized can of hairspray. We have had 11 rooms in 3 different hospitals, 23 doctors, 4 PICC lines, 12 IVs, 100 pokes, 2 brain surgeries, 3 ultrasounds, 3 AKGs, 2 EEGs, 1 lung washing, 2 angiograms, 3 spinal taps, countless CT scans and MRIs, 100 to 150 nurses, 10 physical therapists, and millions of prayers prayed for us, and 1 miracle. First grade, a hero of faith.
During my first grade year, I did not have an associate to help me while in class. Our principal, Mr. Young, noticed quickly that I needed a little extra help with getting to places in the building or picking up my pencil if it rolled on the floor. He wanted to help me. In Iowa at that time, there was no funding for someone at a Christian school who needed physical assistance. Mr. DeYoung decided to change that. When I emailed him for asking for details about his work, he wrote this to me.
I asked the Iowa Department of Education for clarification of their special education funding. When I first called, they said they would get back to me in a week. A week passed, so I checked in with them. Then again. After not hearing from them the next week, I set an alarm in my calendar to call their office or email them every day at 1 o'clock. My best guess is that I contacted them every day for 8 to 10 weeks. So I probably reached out to them 40 to 50 weekdays in a row. Your dad told me, Marika, that if I ever wanted to drop my day job and become a collections agent, he thought I'd make a pretty good career of that. But it wasn't the game for me. You needed help, and I was determined to get you the help you needed. The funding eventually came from the Iowa Department of Education.
At the time, there were more than 33,000 students in non-public schools in Iowa. Basically, this clarification has impacted every student in that group with special physical needs every year since that. To say he was determined and relentless is an understatement. He truly is a hero of faith for me and for other students with physical disabilities.
Second grade, Thunder Cake.
Second grade was a great year. I stayed healthy and I had a dedicated classroom associate. I loved the book Mrs. Ribbons read to us, Thunder Cake. In the book, a girl is terrified of a thunderstorm. Her wise grandmother distracts her by asking for help making thunder cake. It includes one odd ingredient, tomato soup. The next day, Mrs. Ribbons brought a thunder cake to class for us. At first, no one was willing to try it, but I thought, I'll give it a try, so I did. Then, my friend Cody Heisman decided he dared to try it too. After he dared, everyone joined in, and they even admitted they liked it.
Middle school, getting a scooter.
When I was ready to enter middle school, my parents were worried about me being able to get from room to room as we changed classes. My dad had been at a conference where he saw a security guard driving a three-wheeled scooter, and it had a basket attached, just the right size for my backpack. He noticed the rider sat high and therefore quite tall when seated. It worked well for me. When I was on the scooter, I was the same height as my classmates. They decided to get me a scooter. I loved using that scooter in the school hallways. Standing on it, I could zip through the hallways faster than the other students could walk. I was scolded many times for scooting too fast.
6th grade, learning about Bethany Hamilton.
For one assignment in 6th grade, we had to choose a famous person to report on. We had to learn about them, dress up like them, and present an oral report on them. I chose Bethany Hamilton. Bethany was a surfer. When she was surfing at age 13, a shark attacked her and bit off her left arm. When she recovered, she became a one-armed professional surfer. I chose her because I had a broken arm at the time. I also chose her because I have been through a lot, but there are always people who have been through more. My mom sometimes shares a middle school experience with friends to show why she thinks I have a stronger faith than she does. Here's what she says.
Once, when Marika was about 12, we were at a church picnic. She stepped in a hole, fell down, and broke her collarbone. After we finished at the ER, I was angry. Driving home, I thought, why do we have to go through this again? How will I manage when Marika will need so much extra help now? Haven't we already had more than our fair share of health issues? While I helped Marika out of the van, she told me,
I'm not happy about another broken bone, but if God can show me how to use it to help others, I'm fine with it.
my preteen daughter had already accepted her broken bone and had given it to God. Her example humbled me. She has such trust in a loving God. 7th grade emergency and rocky recovery.
In the fall of 7th grade, I woke up one morning and I was a little tired. I had a few minor symptoms that sometimes meant my shot was malfunctioning, but I wasn't vomiting or complaining about a headache. So my parents weren't especially worried, but they were concerned enough to call my doctor in Iowa City. He said to drive me to Iowa City, but there was no need to rush. My mom decided to join us in Iowa City later that day. My dad assured her nothing would happen right away. When we arrived, the doctors did an MRI and they told my dad,
She needs surgery immediately.
my dad said,
Okay, but you are going to get me in trouble with my wife.
I was taken into the operating room and had surgery. This is what my dad remembers.
While I was talking to Lisa on the phone, the nurse came to the waiting room and told me Marika had come through surgery fine. She said they would settle her in her room in about 20 minutes and I could see her. A few minutes later, just as Marika was arriving at the hospital, a nurse came back and said she was awake and now she has stopped responding. We are taking her for a CAT scan. Lisa and I had no idea what was happening until the nurse returned and said, she is having a brain bleed. We are taking her to emergency surgery. We began a long evening of anxious waiting. During that second surgery, the doctors discovered that when they had removed the straw-like part of the shunt, which Marika had in her head since she was 4, a piece of brain tissue had stuck to the shunt, torn, and started a brain bleed. The bleed's symptoms didn't appear until surgery was finished. Marika had been brought to her room, they were getting her settled, and she stopped responding. At that point, there was so much pressure on her brain she couldn't communicate. After the second surgery, Marika needed to be sedated for several weeks so the blood could drain through temporary tubes in her head and slowly be replaced by the spinal fluid that normally surrounds the brain.
After I recovered from all this, I was sent to Des Moines for more rehab. But after several weeks, my overall health declined. The cocci infection, which had always been in my brain since age 4, was out of control. I was transferred back to Iowa City. I love my dad's story of what happened next.
In Iowa City, Marika's health continued downhill. The medication could not control the cocci infection. Neither of us said it out loud, but Lisa and I wondered about taking Marika to the NIH experts in Maryland, where they specialize in Job's syndrome and in research for it. One day at work, I said to my boss, "Marika isn't getting better. Lisa and I don't know what to do. I need an email from God telling us what to do." The next day, Marika's primary care doctor came into Marika's room holding out his smartphone. He said, "I have an email you need to see." It was from NIH in Maryland. In the email, NIH agreed with Iowa City that it was time to transfer Marika to their facility. That was the email I had wanted from God.
Less than 90 minutes after takeoff from Iowa City Airport, my dad and I arrived at the Maryland airport. He called my mom, and she made a post on Carey Bridge. She wrote,
Joe and Marika arrived safely this evening. Joe said the trip went well. All of us are tired, overwhelmed, and lonely for the ones we are not with. I cannot write much tonight. It is too hard. I have heard motherhood described as having your heart walking around outside of your body. My heart flew to Maryland today.
my recovery there was agonizingly slow. My dad had expected to be home soon and packed clothes for just 6 days. Instead, my stay there lasted 5 months.
High school highlights. Football prom and graduation. First, football.
For as long as I can remember, I have loved football. During football games one Friday evening, I had the honor of leading my high school football team out onto the field, riding a golf cart. I felt exuberant as I rode that cart. The crowd cheered, and I felt like a queen leading her knights to battle. I wanted to help the team somehow, so each week I wrote them encouraging letters. I was surprised when they asked me to be honorary team captain. When it was time for their football banquet, I was invited too. I rolled into the auditorium in a fancy purple outfit. After dinner and season movie clips, they started handing out the letters, and at the very end, they said,
We're even going to give one to Marika.
and they did. I was shocked. I felt undeserving because I thought I had not done very well to help.
Prom.
Prom my senior year was a blast. I got dressed and put on a little makeup. My parents took a lot of pictures. On the way to prom, after those pictures, I got a text from my friend Brayton. He said,
Let me know when you are almost to the school because there are a couple of guys who want to escort you into the building.
I expected there to be about 2 to 4 guys because I never really hung out with the guys in my class. But when I arrived, however, I saw about a dozen boys from my class standing outside waiting for me. Everyone in my class had always been nice to me, but I never would have expected this to happen in a million years.
Graduation.
Graduation was awesome, but there was one hurdle. The stage being used for graduation had stairs. We were prepared for this. My aide and I had asked a couple of the boys who walked up those stairs just before me if they would wait there. When it was my turn to go up the stairs, they assisted me up to the stage, where my electric wheelchair was waiting. Then I rode across the stage on my own 4 wheels. After I received my diploma, the gymnasium erupted with cheers and applause. That was special to me because it signified everything I had overcome. So many of those people knew the road I had traveled.
And now, before Marika shares how she finds blessings throughout her battles, I'd like to tell you just one of my experiences working with Marika and her book. Marika's already referred to it. When Marika's parents read our first draft about high school, they were dumbfounded. Marika had written nothing about her traumatic sophomore year. It turns out Marika had only scattered and hazy memories of that difficult year. So we 4 sat down together one afternoon, and Joe and Lisa told Marika and me about that year. More details are in the book, but for now I'll just say that Marika was in and out of the Iowa City Hospital 14 times that school year. She probably spent as many days in the hospital as out of it. And frankly, my mind became a blur trying to keep track of it all. However, one story is embedded in my brain, I think forever. Here it is. One Sunday afternoon in May 2019, the sophomore year, the infectious disease doctor sat down with Joe in a visiting room for a difficult conversation. Joe tells the 2 of us he remembers that long ago conversation as if it just happened. The specialist said to Joe, "We have been trying many different treatments for Marika, and her team of doctors has been talking. We are asking ourselves how long we should continue treatments that are not working." Joe remembers he didn't state a conclusion or make a recommendation. He just laid that on us. His voice is heavy with pain. Resisting tears, he adds, "Over the years, we have seen parents leave that hospital without their child." He stops. Joe and Lisa sit motionless. A pain-filled silence follows. Then Joe's face brightens. He says, "A short time later, Marika turned a corner. Her doctors had no medical explanation for it." Marika smiles at Joe. She says,
Gosh, I've had so many miracles in my life. Sometimes God lets us get to ground zero. It shows us how much we need Him. That's the story of my life.
in the 5 years since 2019, Marika has undergone only 3 additional shunt surgeries. I sit in silence for a moment, a writer, wordless. Until this moment, I have had no idea how fragile Marika's life has been. Finally, I asked, was Marika ever sick before 10th grade? That sick? Lisa tells me Marika has had 3 narrow escapes in preschool, in grade 7, and then in grade 10. I drive home on autopilot. I hardly see the road. I turn off the radio. And in this third silence, I realize that sitting at the Michmershuizen dining room table today, glimpsing their family love and their faith up close, I have been on holy ground. And now, We finish the reading with blessings Marika finds in her life, and then there will be time for questions and answers. Blessing in the battle, looking for the good.
If you look closely enough, you can usually find something good. Very few people in the world have Job syndrome, and even fewer have had as many brain surgeries as I have. Perhaps some people in my situation would be miserable. I try not to focus on the negatives though. For as long as I can remember, I have tried to concentrate on the positives, no matter how small. With everything I've been through in my life, I have learned one thing for sure. God can indeed do miraculous things beyond imagination if you step aside and let Him work through your life. When I have a bad time or a bad day, I know that God is in front of me, behind me, beside me, under me, and in me, protecting me from the worst thing that can happen. That worst thing is negativity. It comes from the devil. When I was a kid in the hospital, sometimes it was hard to find the good, but it's always there if you keep looking. When I was in hospital for what seemed like a million years, I missed out on a lot of core bonding with my friends. I have learned, though, it doesn't matter how many friends I have. My true friends will be there if I need them. But I never decided it was too much work to be friends with me.
Wheelchair blessings.
Being in a wheelchair has small blessings. When you're in a wheelchair and you are going onto a plane, you get to board first. This feels special to me. Checkerboard Restaurant has entry steps. So when we go there, the owners let my family and me enter and leave through the kitchen to avoid the steps. When we enter the kitchen, they say, "Make way!" Everyone moves things out of my way and holds doors open. I feel like a princess or a queen.
Helping others.
It also helps me to do things for other people. I have been to the hospital bingo games in Iowa City as a teenager. At the end of each game, they give out prizes, but the prizes are all for little kids, not teenagers. I thought about that when I got home. When you're a teenager in a hospital bed, you want to watch your phone, and it helps to have a phone stand for your bedside table. So I asked my friends and family for money instead of gifts that Christmas. I wanted to buy cell phone holders, and I donated them all to the hospital, so they would have good bingo prizes for teenagers too.
Relying on God.
My faith in God gives me strength. I have always believed that God has my back. He loves me and He wants what's best for me. I know that through everything I have experienced in my life, God has always been with me and watching over me. I see this through the gift He has given me, no matter how small. There were many times when I was a kid when I wondered why God was putting me through whatever it was. Now remember that God was with me and He is with me.
Blessings are coming.
Sometimes things can be hard, but God will work everything out for good. There may be a blessing coming. That's what's happened to me at least. I didn't think I would ever be able to have long hair. Every time I had brain surgery, my hair was chopped off and my head was shaved. I finally changed my brain surgeon. I said, "You can no longer shave off my entire head." He listened. He started shaving only to what was essential for my surgeries. And now, it's been 5 years since I've had my last brain surgery. Now, I have long hair.
Community and church support.
My family and I are very grateful to be part of a small town and part of a church that cares about our well-being. I never felt like I was without my church, even though I may have been 1,000 miles away in Maryland. Church members still sent letters and showed us they cared. I received a ton of mail. The letters I received from people from the church and from others in Pella often started with the words, "You don't know me very well, but..." A hospital staff person noticed the mail and told us,
You can always tell if a patient is part of a church family. They get a ton of mail. My true home.
"I know no matter what happens here on earth, this is not my true home. I'm only here for a short while before I go to heaven to be with God forever. Before I go under anesthesia, I have to have brain surgery. I often have a freak out moment. I get nervous. I wonder, what if I die? Then I realize that it'll be okay if I die. I will go to heaven, and that will be awesome. I'll be able to walk, jump, and run. And I won't ever feel pain or get sick ever again. I also repeat Jeremiah 29:11. It is the life which my parents chose for me before I was born. For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you, or plans to give you hope and a future. I have memorized. When I say it, I become calm. I think, yes, if I die, I will go to heaven. And heaven is perfect. And if I live, there will be more blessings in the battle.
More blessings in the battle. And with that, we end our presentation, and it's your turn. We'd like to open this up for comments or questions for either of us, or for Marika's parents, Joe and Lisa, who are sitting here in the front. They said they would also be willing to answer questions as well.
If you don't have any questions, we made some up to ask each other and to ask my parents.
But we suspect that you do have questions, and now is the time for them. And we realize that sometimes people worry about asking inappropriate questions, all right? And Marika has an answer for that. I'll give her a second to take a drink. And then Marika will answer whether there's such a thing as an inappropriate question.
I don't know about other people, but I'll answer pretty much any question I have the answer to.
Okay, there's one requirement that you have, and that's that it be respectful, right?
And not medical related, so I'm not going to medical things.
Oh, there you have it. But if you do have a medical question, Joe and Lisa over the years have become experts. They know more medical terms than I've ever heard of in my life. So anyway, questions or comments? Anyone? Otherwise, we'll start asking our own. Okay? Because we're, if you have questions, I'm not sure what that means. If you're totally confused, or if we answered every question you could possibly have. I'm not quite sure. We'll start asking questions, and if I see a hand go up, we'll call on you. Okay? So,
One down here, Carol.
oh, wonderful, Rose.
What are you in school at this present time?
I am not. I did go to Pella Christian through high school, and then after I graduated from there, I went to Pella Community for like 3 years, I think, for like life skills training and stuff, because they don't do that at Pella Christian. But I graduated from there in 23, I think.
Okay,
tell them
and how do you tell them about your volunteer work.
So I'm not in school anymore, but I still go to Pella Christian grade school Monday mornings, Tuesday mornings, and Friday mornings. And I help in a classroom there because that's where I went to grade school.
You work where?
Pella Christian grade school.
And what? And do what?
I just help in a classroom.
Okay, someone else, yes.
I just wanted you to know that there's overflow into the hallway. They wouldn't let us in because you're at max capacity. My name is Elizabeth, and I read your book with my 10-year-old son, and we just really enjoyed your story. And just thank you for your openness and thank you for sharing.
You do?
Thank you for sharing the light of Jesus inside of you too. To be able to share that with my 10-year-old it's amazing. So thank you.
You're welcome.
In back there, yes.
I want to housemates. Thank you for publishing the book.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
It was a cool book to listen to.
It was what?
I liked the book.